peace of Christ be with you. My name is Father Dominic Smith, and I'm from the Order of St. Augustine. As we enter into the second week of Lent, we are invited to cooperate with the gift of God's grace that we may increase in faith and live holy lives. About 1900 years before Christ, Abram and Sarah lived in Ur, which is modern-day Iraq. They had everything they needed to live comfortable lives, except they had no children. This was very difficult for Abram and Sarah. They had always wanted to have children, but Sarah was thought to have been barren. This was a great cause of emotional pain for both Abram and Sarah. One day, God came to Abram when he was about 75 years old and said to him, "Go forth from the land of your kinsfolk and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you. All the communities of the earth shall be blessed by you." And so God extended an invitation to Abram to have faith in his promise and to detach himself from his present life. He was asked to leave his former way of life in order that he might transcend the natural world in order to experience a supernatural relationship with God. This is a glimpse of the presence of God's grace in the Old Testament. St. Augustine says that grace alone brings about every good work in us. St. Augustine attributes Abram's faith to God's grace that initiates and sustains the good response that comes from Abram. Faith is a supernatural gift from God that restores divine life in the human soul and gives the human soul the ability to love, because God is love. St. Paul, in his second letter to Timothy, describes God's grace as the strength that comes forth from God and calls us to a holy life. All good things come from God. Our fallen nature is incapable of doing anything good apart from God's grace. Is God calling you out of your familiar settings? Is He asking you to be a blessing to others by being a conduit of His grace? What are you holding on to that is preventing you from answering God's invitation to experience spiritual regeneration? Almost 2,000 years since Abram and Sarah had that visit by God, we see God intending to bless all of the communities of the world by Abram's offspring at the transfiguration of Jesus Christ. Jesus leads Peter, James, and John up a mountain. When they reach the top of the mountain, they have a vision of Moses and Elijah conversing with Jesus. Peter, not understanding what was going on, suggests that they build 3 tents for Moses, Elijah, and Jesus. However, what he doesn't realize is that Moses, who represents the law, and Elijah, who represents the prophets, find fulfillment in Jesus Christ. So there is only need of one tent, one tabernacle, in which the splendor of God will radiate. Jesus is transfigured in front of their very eyes. That is, He is profoundly changed outwardly from what is effectively changing within Him. To metamorphically change is a change that comes from the interior and manifests itself in the exterior. Jesus reveals His divine nature by the threefold disciples witnessing His transfiguration. We hear the Father speak out of a cloud, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I am well pleased. Listen to Him." How do we listen to Jesus? Do we listen to Him as Abram did? Are we metamorphosizing our spiritual lives so that Jesus Christ is transforming us from the inside out? Today in every Catholic church around the world, all the communities of the earth are blessed with the presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. Humans are offered grace through the sacraments, and are invited to be transformed from the inside out. God's grace works on our hearts and regenerates the life of God within us. As we continue our journey through Lent, following Jesus up the mountain to the house of the Lord, let us listen to him and abandon all of the things that prevent us from being transformed by God's grace into holy men and women. Let us ask God to give us the gift of faith so that we may hear and respond to what God is asking of us in our lives. And let us be transformed by God's grace. And may we always listen for God's voice to direct us so that we may live holy lives. I pray that you have a very fruitful Lenten season, and God bless you.